Okay, if you're running somewhere between 132 and 150 for the half marathon right now, and you someday want to break 90 minutes, because one day you want to break 3 hours for the marathon, this is for you. Because most runners who are chasing a sub 90 minute half marathon will train at 2 speeds, as fast as they possibly can, and then long, slow distance. And they hope that somewhere along the line, a 416 kilometer, a 652 mile, and being able to hold that for the half marathon distance falls out. But it's exactly that, hope. The pace that wins you a sub 90 minute half marathon, and more importantly, that big sub 3 hours for the marathon, lives in exactly that gap that they are missing. That gap that they are skipping is exactly what would take you from wanting to one day run 90 minutes for half marathon to actually within 1 to 2 training blocks you're able to run sub 3 hours for the marathon. That's the part that matters. That middle isn't just what gets you to 90 minutes. It's the exact work that you've got to become accustomed to. You've got to fall in love with. Because if you develop that part of your game, it's exactly the part that allows you to make a huge breakthrough, to achieve something that currently looks impossible. That's exactly what keeps happening with the runners I coach. They hit sub 90, but as a byproduct of training towards a marathon they haven't yet run. Let me show you exactly the mistake, the 2 sessions that fix this, the proof that tells you exactly where you stand today. Here's what most people do, and I see this on a daily basis. On their hard running days, they run as fast as they possibly can. Eyeballs out, wiped out as they finish the session. It's not repeatable, and the feeling, the words that I often hear is, I can do 6 times a kilometer way faster than 3:45, or I can run a mile in 5:40, but I just can't seem to hold it. Because when it comes to long runs, it has to be long, slow distance because you're so wiped out from those other sessions. So the whole week becomes either flat out or crawling, essentially training for something else, when what we're preparing for is trying to run as fast as we possibly can on one morning on one day, whether that's that sub 90 or that sub 3. Sub 90 isn't an all-out problem, and it isn't a long, slow problem, it's a threshold problem. You raise the ceiling that 416 per kilometer or 652 per mile sits under by spending real controlled time just below that. And way more important than pace, and you've got to be honest with yourself here, and ideally you've got to be proactive in finding this out because your watch is lying to you. What is my threshold? And what does that mean then to be underneath it? So here are just 2 sessions that everything else is built around. Number 1, sub-threshold intervals. So something like 5 times 6 minutes or 4 times 2K at an effort that you could hold for 1 hour. Comfortably hard, but controlled, and probably quite a lot easier than the intervals that you're currently doing. So the feedback that I commonly get is that the athlete is pleasantly surprised and often unpleasantly surprised that the work is actually easier than what they've been doing. So they've been working incredibly hard and not seeing results exactly because they're missing that middle part. In an interval session, you want to be feeling like you could do 1 or 2 more. With a threshold, sub-threshold session like this, you feel as if you could do plenty more. And that's the whole point. It's repeatable. You can stack many of these together over the weeks and months. You're teaching your body to clear lactate at speed. You're working on exactly the efficiencies that you're going to be using in that sub 90 half marathon and in that sub 3 hour marathon. The second session is the long run. And it's got to be specific. We've always got to look at the goal and say, okay, what am I trying to do? And what can I be doing to have the most use of my time to work towards that goal optimally? So something as simple as 10 miles progressively quicker with that final 2 or 3 miles at half marathon effort. But you're not doing 8 miles incredibly easy and then jumping up and shocking the body. You're progressively getting towards that point. So you're raising the effort throughout the run and then finishing at marathon effort. And then we can add time on to that 2 miles or add distance. So eventually that becomes 6 miles at half marathon effort. So what we're cleverly doing is building time at half marathon effort on fatigue legs. We're simulating that faster finish, which means that you can hold yourself together in the final 3 miles, in the final 5K of a half marathon. Hold yourself together biomechanically, from a muscular endurance standpoint, and physiological durability as well. You always see this mistake from marathon runners. They have never worked at that easy part that should be the first 10, 15K, the first 10 miles of a marathon. And notice what that builds. Complete control up until the point where you bury yourself in order to get to the line. Because you've rehearsed it so many times in training, it becomes like clockwork. That's exactly how it is for an elite athlete. Look at elite athletes when they're running a marathon or half marathon. It's completely under control. And then as the finish line gets closer, and we saw this at London with Sebastian, Kiplomo and Yonif, because I can't pronounce his second name, but as they start to get to the finish line, it's a wind-up run. It's that progression that they are so used to that it's second nature. So is sub-90 realistic for you with inside one training block, with inside the next 13 weeks? Now, I could tell you to go and do a 5K time trial or a 5K park run or race. Go flat out, but pace it well. And if you're running 19:30 to 20 minutes, then I could say, yeah, you're in line to run that 90 minutes. But what I really truly, honestly believe is that if you're already running that time for 5K, it is criminal that you're not running a sub 90 minute half marathon. And so this is where you get surprised when you start directing all of this effort, all of this time and energy that you're dedicating to running to exactly the right work in multiple areas that are all complementing each other. And then the breakthroughs are wild. They're unreasonable. And that's exactly the word that you should use to describe your targets. A lot of us are living like we've got another chance, we've got another life and another life. I'll get to it sometime. There's no better day than today to get started. And take it from me, and of all the people I've coached, you're capable of so much more, yet you're putting this limiting belief on yourself because sub 90 is a good time for everybody else for a half marathon, or because sub 3 hours is a good time for everybody else for the marathon. But what is a good time for you? That's really the only thing that matters. And that's why I always say, and with every runner that I coach, that target is a moving target. And the achievement is often far greater than what was originally written down. Because if you break running down into 100 different pieces, which you can, and you optimize as many of those different areas that you can, given the other things going on in your life, I'll put you on the start line not with hope, but with a race card that will tell you exactly how to pace it at each section of the half marathon or the marathon. There's a link below to book a coaching call to see if we're a coaching fit. But if you stop training in 2 speeds and start working on exactly what is going to move you forward, just see what that becomes.